Talking with Shelly about sending moms home with their birthing CD so that they can practice hypnosis for birthing. And I wanted to ask you, Laura, how long, Shelly said for about a month, and these CDs are about 20 minutes apiece. How often do women need to listen to their CDs to have their desired results?
Well, we encourage women to use the CD at least once a day. We also teach them an automatic hypnosis technique so they can get there really quickly during their contractions. And we like to have them practice that 5 times a day, but that's 30 seconds a time. So typically it's about half an hour of practice a day. Not everyone achieves that level of commitment, and they can still have a really beautiful birth, but that's what we start with, encouraging them.
So I can hear some of our viewers right now, Shelly, going, okay, so I could practice for a month, for half an hour a day, and not have any drugs, but I could also just go into the hospital and have them stick that needle in my back and totally feel nothing and have a great birth. Why would somebody want to do this without having any of the drugs?
Right, that's a really good question, and that's one of the first ones that comes up for a lot of women. Because we live in such a highly medicalized society, most people do turn to drugs and surgery before anything else. However, studies have shown that epidurals have a lot of risks and a lot of side effects, and most of those are actually very threatening to the baby. So as mothers, we start out being very protective of our babies. It's a natural instinct to want to protect this innocent.
Yes, it is.
And it starts long before the baby comes,
yes,
right?
It does,
Yeah. So what a lot of women find is that what they once thought was going to be okay with having an epidural, when they find out the facts about it, they change their minds and decide they'd rather try something else a little more natural. So some of the things that happen when a woman gets an epidural, and just so you know, an epidural is it's drugs that are injected into the spinal column to stop the transmission of pain signals from the lower abdominal area and up. It's usually mid-chest or so. Have I got that right? Epidurals?
Yeah, I think it's like belly down.
Belly down,
right.
Yeah. And so when the anesthesiologist comes, the cervix has to be dilated to a certain point. If it's not there yet, he won't start, and if it's gone too far, he won't start. But once the epidural anesthesia is ready to be administered, a woman has to bend very far forward to sort of open a gap in the spinal column.
Yes.
And then he inserts a very big needle to open a hole into the spinal column. And
Mitch is going to pass out. If you hear a clunk on the recording, that Mitch just fell over. I'm sorry,
Teddy stuff. So then a kind of flat tube is inserted into the spinal column, and the delivery of the drugs begins. And so some of the risks of doing that are that opening a hole in your spinal column in the actual fluids that are being transmitted up and down through your spinal cord can begin to leak out or develop air pockets. And then this can lead to terrific headaches and just really bad migraines.
Epidural headaches.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, although a lot of people believe that epidural medication doesn't reach the baby, it just stays in the spinal column, studies have shown that the babies do have residual leftovers of that drug in their systems up to 5 days later.
Oh, wow.
So it really is getting to the baby's system, and they're much less able to eliminate it from their systems than we are as adults. So while you might process it in a day or two, the baby is kind of stuck with it with an immature liver and immature kidneys.
Oh, I had no idea that it actually transmitted to the baby, because everything that I had heard before was that it just stayed within the mother's body, but, makes sense. So, based on what you just said, Laura, about the conditioning for instantaneous self-hypnosis for the contractions, sounds like to me that moms don't have to worry about where their cervix is or what's going on to achieve, would you say, comfort while they're birthing their baby? Actually,
yeah. We teach several skills, and one of them is a surgery-grade anesthesia. And not every mom gets to that point. I didn't with my own labor. My daughter was born about a month early, and I hadn't gotten to that particular CD yet. But what studies have found is actual PET scans of brains where people are in hypnosis and out of hypnosis. A pain stimulus is applied, and when people are in hypnosis, the part of the brain that registers pain still lights up, but the part of the brain that registers suffering is flat. So people can feel the sensations without the suffering, and that was my experience. And I got to tell you, pain without suffering is a whole different animal. I mean, I felt the contractions, and I was able to make them bigger. I was able to work with them, and it was like, is that all you got? Throw more at me, because I could feel it, but it wasn't pain. It was a sensation.
I think a lot of people out there may be able to relate to that, because we do all sorts of things with hypnosis. And in actual times of highly emotionalized states where there can be pain present due to an injury or something that's going on, but people actually do not feel that. That happens naturally sometimes when people are in accidents and they still have to perform. When people play sports and they have all the adrenaline going and they break a thumb or an ankle or things like that, they continue to play without even realizing they've been injured.
Or even a blister.
A blister? Oh,
they don't realize until afterwards.
Especially when you have those cute shoes and you're just like, every time you shoes, you're like, great. And then you get home and you're like, holy cow, I had no idea. So it is a state that we can achieve, without this formal, what we call hypnosis, but the name hypnosis is that alpha-wave brain state. We're just applying that name to it.
Right.
So I keep hearing over and over, ladies, that you're saying that these women that come in can just do this by a little bit of practice.
Yes, absolutely. And the benefits are so huge. If you're able to create comfort in your body during an event that a lot of people consider to be one of the most challenging, and sometimes people say the most painful of their lives, and to come out of it on the other side feeling empowered by your own ability to control your sensations, that alone is a wonderful way to enter parenthood. That, I'm in control. I can feel what I want to feel. I can react the way I want to react. I can get through this using my own power. I have everything I need already inside me. And learning that all of this is already available to women, and they can begin, all they've got to do is commit to learning it, and then they're ready to go. They're ready to take control of it.
I know that when I had Gabriella, I did self-hypnosis. I had no idea what I was doing. It just seemed like a natural state. Right. I stared at a windsock outside of the hospital window for hours and hours. It was a 20-hour labor, so I did that for a long time and had her naturally. And I remember afterwards, anytime I went to go do something physical, like an aerobics class or a long walk, I think, I'm kind of tired. I think, you had that baby. You can do anything. So I can only imagine what it's like for people to have a comfortable birth, when in the face of most of what is said in our culture is that birth is a horrible traumatic experience, cancel, but we have all these messages out there. To actually go and have this situation where you're like, I did that and I did it comfortably and peacefully, I would think that a stubbed toe or something else that would come along, you could transfer what you had learned from the birth experience into daily living.
But it's getting to this primal place and just finding your strength and, figuring out your body is amazing. The things it can do, it can create this baby. It sure as heck knows how to get it out, and just to really trust in that is so empowering. One of the major things we fight against when we're teaching women is the idea that the uterus doesn't work, that it's a muscle in the body that doesn't work, and it's absolutely wrong. It works beautifully. What an amazing muscle, what an amazing ability we have to bring a baby into the world.
So that leads me to a little thing that I don't think we've covered yet on Michelle Mitch, the fear, tension, pain cycle, where when you go into fear, your muscles tend to lock up and contract. And I know from doing a little bit of work with birth hypnosis as well, and hearing your story about not contracting after your water broke, having a hypnotherapy session, all of a sudden the uterus begins contracting, that the presence of fear in the body, or the thought that you don't want to go through this, can actually block the uterus from doing its job. Yeah. So it's basically a thought or a fear that the mom is holding about, oh, here it comes, I don't want to do this.
Fighting every contraction.
Fighting every contraction. So is that something that you address when you're working with moms?